All right, so I've dealt with a lot of bad cops. See, when cops think that they can get away with victimizing somebody, just like any of the rest of y'all who have a bad day, I've seen nearly everybody that I know take a bad day out on somebody who doesn't deserve it. The problem that we have is that there are jurisdictions who hire exclusively officers that they know will hurt people. Boulder County is the worst. They hire specifically officers who are bullies. They don't hire investigators, they hire bullies. Specifically, bullies who will harass and harm the homeless. Now, I'm going to give you a lot of examples here. Keith Steinman. I have documented over 100 instances with Keith Steinman where he broke the law against homeless people, along with his cronies. Is Keith Steinman the only one? Not even fucking close. On January 6th of 2018, I was assaulted by Waylon Lolatai. Many of y'all are going to be familiar with stories like this because, well, you're poor. You're not stupid. Now, Waylon Lolatai was removed from the Denver Police Department for assaulting an inmate. He was not arrested. Matter of fact, he was given paid leave, and it dragged out for a year and a half. And he said, well, I'll just move. And so he moved to Boulder. This officer, with a history of assaulting people, was allowed to get a job as a cop elsewhere. And that elsewhere, he assaulted me. And then 6 more people after me within a year. And the only ones that people care about are the, what's the word, colored ones? Is that the word that you want me to use? It's only illegal if you're black. It's only illegal if you're Hispanic. Is that what you're trying to insinuate here? It's only illegal for a police officer to do what Waylon Lolatai did to minorities? Fuck you. That bitch ass fucking porker shit should have never been allowed access to a gun or a badge again. The conversation between myself and Miss Peach is one of, well, at least one of them. We talk about that. We talk about how Waylon Lolatai had his gun taken away. He hadn't even been in Boulder for a fucking year. He had his gun taken away. And his taser. Imagine that. Is he the only one that I had to deal with? Now, first of all, I'd like to state that I have read at least 100 other people who have had to deal with similar situations with officers who have a history of abuse. But who's going to enforce the laws? Is Rick Reigenborn going to arrest the officers who broke the law in me and Natalie's case? Fuck no. Another officer from that county, an officer who was involved in Natalie's case, but did not do his job, by the name of Officer Burke. He lost his job in Adams County because he is violent. Yet he was allowed, just like Officer Waylon Lolatai, Officer Burke was allowed to get a job in Boulder County. Now, what other crooked officers are we having to deal with from Boulder County? Amanda Jonas. as well as the FBI and the Secret Service in that situation. Fuck the goddamn police. These guys know what they're doing is wrong. They know what they're doing is illegal. And they get away with it because you want to believe that it's all right for a police officer to murder a human being. You think it is all right for police officers to harm the homeless because you don't like the homeless, because you were taught to be hateful towards homeless people, even worse than you were taught to hate black people. God bless America, right? Is that the only place where these officers were allowed to move on? No, it's absolutely not. Here in Chapel, Nebraska, Cody Selhorst was allowed to move on to prevent me from bringing charges against him and the sheriff of this town. Lovely, right? Then there's Jordan Anderson, who was allowed to leave so that his testimony couldn't be brought in court against himself and Sheriff Scott DaCosta. Meanwhile, these goons have done everything in their power to prevent me from having access to the evidence. And no matter how many times, oh dang, I killed two of them at once. Nice. Two flies. The other thing is that these officers covered for each other. That's what they do. There is no such thing as a good cop. Absolutely not. If there were good cops, they would have arrested the bad cops. Rick Ragenborn, you belong in prison. Who else belongs in prison? A lot of them. Now, is it just officers who are allowed to do this? No. Absolutely not. My very first public pretender with this situation was given a job as a judge in Adams County for the things that she did to me. For ignoring the crimes against me in Chapel, Nebraska, Joel J. was allowed to move to Kansas. Kansas to be a judge. This guy is as fucking crooked as they come. But he got away with it. These crooks use jurisdiction to get away with their crimes, to help their buddies get away with crimes. Sheriff Scott DaCosta, he knew that I was assaulted repeatedly in this town and did nothing. He knew that his officers did not do their jobs on multiple occasions. And rather than those officers getting in trouble for what they did, he allowed them to continue. Cody Selhorst should have never been allowed to threaten me or harass me. What happens when you go to the police for help? That depends on how much money you have, who you're friends with. Like Polly Olson, I lost all respect for her. She's not willing to tell the truth because she's friends with several of the officers. Well, imagine that. Who else was allowed to move on after doing harmful shit to me? Pamela Carty, my public pretender in Arapahoe County. I was forced to break the law to defend myself and my loved ones. And although I was loyal to them, they all stabbed me in the back. And when I told the truth about those situations, they wanted to play fucking victim. Of course, most women in the United States are going to play victim because that's what we teach them to do. That's right. You can destroy a man's life and then play victim, and it's okay. This is especially prevalent among junkie, 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 the junkie crowd. These are the people who really, their whole life is surrounded by, hey, I want to get some drugs. I want to get some drugs. I don't care who it is whose life is damaged by this. I just care about the drugs. Like Natalie Bollinger, Alicia Bollinger, Maddie Boa, Christine Buhit, and many others. Now, these officers broke the law, all of them, repeatedly, by going across jurisdictional boundaries in order to commit these crimes. They committed federal offenses, but it doesn't matter because the feds aren't going to do a goddamn thing. They're just as crooked as the fucking cops. What we should be doing, and I do mean this, according to the great many people who fed me their opinions, like Candace Bondurant, we should be killing all of these cops, all of them. Did Kansas say, and by the way, Kansas, the reason that she was called that is because she's fat. Her older brother called her Kansas, not Candace. Her older brother was a good friend of mine. And out of respect for her brother, I'm going to call her Kansas from here on in. Sean, that's so mean. You shouldn't make fun of fat people. You know, when I was fat, I got made fun of. Now that I'm skinny, I get made fun of. People are going to get made fun of no matter the fuck what. Does that make the evil things that they do okay? Most people with my situation, they're like, you know, Sean, you should do this and you should do that. Not paying any attention to my ability to do so. Telling me to do a bunch of stuff on the internet that I've already tried repeatedly to do, and I have asked for help repeatedly. But then again, I gotta depend on junkies. I gotta depend on people who care about their drugs, and that's it. You have no idea how many junkies have told me that they were sober for over a year, followed by they've been sober for 6 months, followed by they've been sober for 2 weeks, followed by they're proud of themselves because they haven't smoked any fucking meth in like 6 hours. All of those in the same fucking day. I got shit like that from Christine Buhit and many, many other fucking meth heads and heroin addicts. And she is one of them people like Natalie Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger who is addicted to both. Now, why did I have to go to meth heads for fucking help? Because the police wouldn't do a goddamn thing. Natalie didn't care about me as a human being. She pretended to. She manipulated me until she got what she wanted. Lots of people did that. They know that I'm in a fucked up situation and I have to trust somebody, but I don't trust anybody for good reason. Because people have shown me time and again that I can't trust them, that they're not going to keep their word. Having to believe people like Katie Cahill, Danica Garner, Rochelle Shelley Campbell, people like, well, Shannon Alvarado, who's an alcoholic, Christine Buhit, who's a drug addict. Why? Because nobody who works for the government is going to stand up to the fucking government. Are you kidding me? Every single one of my public pretenders were fucking cowards. If any one of my lawyers had made any effort whatsoever, all of my charges would have been dropped on technicalities. They were allowed to badger me. They were allowed to torture me, both physically and mentally. Well, physically, mentally, and financially. And they all got away with it. All of them. Not only that, they conspired with police elsewhere to break the law repeatedly. The people who took advantage of my disabilities in order to run off with my money, although they didn't have to run off, they stayed right in the same house. They didn't have to move. They weren't made homeless. And those who claimed to be my friends, claimed to love me, claimed to care about me, helped my predators. In my personal opinion, there is not a police officer in America that doesn't deserve to be shot outright in public. Shot outright in public. Candace Bondurant said that if anybody came to her house to intimidate her and her kids, she'd put a 45 right between their eyes. And then Officer Michael Beard showed up to threaten, harass, and intimidate her. Did she shoot him between the eyes? No, she's a fucking coward, just like the rest of you. Police need to be held accountable. No more of this hiring on a fucking crooked ass goddamn officer from elsewhere. If he has assault pending, he should never be allowed to have a gun again in his life. I mean that. He should not be allowed to have a firearm, let alone a goddamn badge. Officer Burke should be in prison for the assault that he committed against me in August of 2018. I coordinated with Amanda Jonas to turn him in. That is specifically what I went there for. Miss Peaches gave me a ride. She was supposed to go in with me, but didn't. Our conversations show that too. None of these people took the time to put themselves in my shoes. None of them took the time to realize that me, the sober motherfucker, the dude who's not on meth, the dude who's not on alcohol, the dude who is not on fucking heroin, and all of these fucking junkies are junkies, so they don't care. They know. We have heard at least 30 conversations with people who are like, yeah, I know you don't drink. I know you don't do fucking drugs. But the police, they don't care about the truth. They care about covering their own asses. And they use their friends to do that. Are the police in Colorado friends with the hospital staff that they have to go see? Yes, they are. They use those hospital staff in order to get whatever it is that justifies their crimes. And the hospitals are more than happy to provide this. In Rawlins, Wyoming, those doctors were friends with the police officers that I was talking to. Every bit of those situations should have been recorded. But no, what do police officers do? They know that they're going to break the law, obviously, because they turn off their body cameras, including officers who are still in this town. Now, I have seen Officer Hahn. I know where Officer Hahn lives. I know what his kids look like. I know what the woman who lives with him looks like. I don't know if his wife or not. But the fact is, at any point in time, I could have gone and blown up his house. At any point in time, I could have manufactured an explosive with household materials and killed the man. And I do believe that he deserves the death penalty for the abuse of his power. If an officer, these people who we're supposed to hold with public trust and honor, have no honor. If a police officer kills an unarmed person, regardless of color, that officer not only should be dealt with capital punishment, but they should be dealt with capital punishment publicly. Maybe we should use the tactics that they use. What tactics did they use in the South when a whole bunch of slaves were now free? Why are these slaves freed? Because over 600,000, mostly white people, gave up their lives for that freedom. And what did the folks in the South do? Oh no, these aren't people. We'll hang them all up from telegraph poles. 15,000 people hung from telegraph poles on the way to Charleston. If we took officers like Officer Burke and Officer Steinman and Officer Lolatai, and we hung all of these officers from telephone poles and power poles from Denver to Boulder, Colorado, yeah, them fucking pigs would think fucking twice. Why did they do that in the South? Because people were pissed off because they didn't get what they wanted. I didn't get what I wanted, so it's okay for me to kill people. Just like cops do today. Now, a lot of that was an intimidation tactic, a scare tactic, to say, hey, you black people are still going to do what we say. We can still hang you and get away with it. Even after the Civil War, the war is over, we can still hang you and get away with it. You know how many Southerners it would have taken to round up 15,000 black people and hang them from telephone poles? That's a lot of fucking people. Then there's the term mentally ill. You call somebody mentally ill and it makes it magically okay. You can do whatever you want to them from here on in. You can beat them up and call them mentally ill. You can falsely imprison them and call them mentally ill. You know, the backpack full of evidence that I tried to show every single public pretender, every single fucking cop, it was stolen in Longmont and taken to Sheridan, which is fucked up because Ken and Leah don't live in Sheridan. Sheridan Police Department investigated a crime outside of their jurisdiction, stole evidence from outside of their jurisdiction in order to prevent that evidence against police officers from being shown in court. Fuck the goddamn police. Fuck the judges who allowed this. These judges, like Kathleen M. Jansky, knew what they were doing was wrong. Judges like Judge Fatzinger, who I was illegally prevented from filing reports against him as well for his wrongdoing. You know, on that protection order from Natalie, it had an address on it. And according to Danica Garner, that wasn't even Natalie's address. That was her grandmother's address. But people wanted to pretend that I knew where Natalie lived and that I was stalking her in Colorado and following her everywhere around Colorado. Bitch, I didn't even know Natalie was in fucking Colorado. What I knew is that I was being abused for crimes that I didn't fucking commit, and the cops didn't give a holy fucking goddamn, and they still don't. Sheriff Scott DaCosta belongs in prison. Waylon Lolatai belongs in prison. Cody Selhorst belongs in prison. Jordan Anderson belongs in prison. Jared Hahn belongs in prison. Amanda Jonas belongs in prison. Officer Burt belongs in prison. This is not secluded incidents. It's not like we have one bad officer and we catch him the first time that he commits a crime. No, not even close. One of those officers that was busted just last year had a 20-year history of raping and assaulting women. Do we see that all over the news? No, the fuck we don't. We saw a couple little clips and that was it. Ken and Leah live at 3395 South Zuni. I want you to type that up in your little MapQuest up here. I want you to type 3395 South Zuni. That's in Colorado, by the way. And I want you to tell me, is that in Sheridan? Matter of fact, I got a phone right here. I'll look it up for you. All right. Sorry, I don't have the best internet connection. We'll go to 3395 South Zuni, Denver, Colorado. That's the way that I type it, because it makes you type in a city. Oh, but imagine that. "3395 South Zuni Street, Englewood, Colorado, 80110. That's where the people who stole my money, stole my things, and outright lied to me repeatedly about it. That's where they live. Let's take a street view. This is a picture of the street. This is Ken and Leah's house at 3395 South Zuni. Well, it's taking a bit to load up, but I'm going to show you what their house looks like. Na 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 na. That's their house. 3395 South Zuni. Is that in Sheridan? I was bullied, harassed, manipulated, and assaulted into pleading guilty to a crime that I didn't even commit. They put a bunch of earmarks. You know what earmarks are if you know anything about American law. You say, all right, we got this great idea. We're going to make it illegal for cops to turn off their body cameras. But then they put in the bill a whole bunch of exceptions to the rule. Earmarks. Or they put in stuff that is completely unrelated to it because it's stuff that they wanted to pass and the opposition isn't going to vote to pass it. But they also know that none of these guys are actually going to read it. None of these congressmen or senators are actually going to read these things. This is their house. I lived in a garage out back of this thing. Now, is 3395 South Zuni, is that in Sheridan? No. At what point did Sheridan have any business doing anything at all with that case? None whatsoever. They did not have the right to investigate it. They did not have the right to steal that evidence. They coordinated with other officers to commit felonies to hide the crime of other officers. If you, as an officer, cover for the crimes of other officers, you are just as guilty of that crime, according to the law, both federal and state law in Colorado. Same thing here in Nebraska. Conspiracy is itself a charge. These people conspired with my predators to frame an innocent man. Now, is that to say that I'm innocent of every single crime? Fuck no, I admitted all the crimes that I committed. And I would not have had to commit those crimes if I had actually had help. When they can call you mentally ill and get away with whatever they want, you do need help. You need someone who is not going to bullshit you. Getting help from people like Shannon Alvarado, who is a bullshitter and an alcoholic. Or help from Brett Roloff, who's not a bullshitter, but he's a meth addict and a meth salesman, and that's tough for me to deal with. When I left Nebraska here in 2003 and went homeless, do you know why I went homeless? Because I can't fucking stand meth heads. All of my friends in Chapel, Nebraska turned into meth heads. Matt Worley. Yeah, he turned into a meth head. Jason Vogt turned into a meth head. Little Jason Jepson turned into a meth head. Case Layton Morris turned into a meth head. Are you guys not seeing this? And that's not even close to all of them here in town. Most of the girls that I went to high school with had sex with a tiny dick twink. And I don't mean twink as in a homosexual. I realize that a lot of you assholes use the word twink for that, but here in Nebraska, twink means something different. Twink means they couldn't beat their way out of a wet paper bag. That's what twink means here. You ain't nothing but a twinkle in your mama's eye. Or maybe it's your daddy's, depending on where you're from. It's a regional thing, kind of like the word soda and pop. We're not going to change this by making it a race thing. See, we've got as victims going at the throats of other victims and saying, oh, well, we're more victimized than you, so you need to go to the back of the bus. And everybody's doing this right now. We're not going to change this by taking part in it. There's a poem by Martin Niemöller called When They Came. Martin Niemöller, let me tell you about this guy. He was a preacher in Germany prior to World War II. He was sent to both Dachau and Auschwitz, or Auschwitz, depending on which TV program you're watching, they'll pronounce it different every time. And before the war started, he was actually slightly anti-Semitic. But you know what he was locked up for before the war? For sticking up for Jews. This guy who's supposedly anti-Semitic was locked up in a concentration camp for sticking up for Jews. So he made this poem after the war. They came for the communists, but I was not a communist. That's how it starts. And it goes through the whole line of people that we in America hate on. We hate on communists. We hate on socialists. Now look at us. We're living a very socialist lifestyle, with the exception of we have less freedoms than there are in a socialist nation. Also, a lot of y'all aren't paying attention to the fact that, well, communism is a good goddamn idea. So is socialism on paper, just like democracy. In reality, none of them actually work. Now, when we talk about socialism, people want to point at Nazi Germany. Those were not socialists. That is not socialism. But then again, if 90% of Nazis call themselves socialists, then yes, Nazi socialism. There you go. Does that make it right? It fucking doesn't. So then we say that all socialists must be bad because of the Nazis, who were not socialists. But that comes back to the situation I was talking about yesterday and the day before and many times before this. If 99% of cops are turning a blind eye and only 1% of cops are doing bad shit, they're all still bad cops. If Christians, if you have 1% of Christians who are actual Christians, actually believe in Jesus, actually read the book and actually follow its teachings as they're written, not as they're interpreted at the Chapel Assembly of God to their racist congregation. Are all people that are in that congregation racist? No. No, they're not. But if we have 99% of Christians out there doing horrible shit in the name of Jesus, and 1% who are not like that, then yes, in actuality and in reality, Christianity is disgusting. Christianity is deplorable. Christianity is up there with the Nazi Party. And if you look at the history of Christianity, they're actually worse. Christians have killed more Christians than all other religions combined. Christians have killed more Muslims than all other religions combined. Christians have killed more Christians than they have killed all other people combined. Kind of like if you have the sky, it's blue, is it not? But if we start calling things that are blue red, and we call things that are red blue, have we changed the color? No, we have not. We have changed the name. That is what we have done. If we call the Nazi Party the appropriate Christian party, we keep all of the same fanatics, we keep all of the same bullshit, all of the same antics, but we've changed the name. Boy, oh boy, that's called pulling the wool over someone's eyes. It's like here in the United States, instead of calling it torture, we call it pain compliance. And we use it against anybody who tries to turn in a police officer. We also use the jurisdictional tricks, like what Brian Valenzuela did from Sheridan, and what the police did by sending me out of jurisdiction so that I couldn't make reports against them. These officers coordinated across multiple jurisdictions with the Bollinger family for months and months and months. They worked together to try to push me to the point where I literally had to break the law to get some attention to this goddamn issue. And people say, you're just doing this for attention. No, not even fucking close. I'm trying to draw attention to the fact that we don't have rights. Telling me that I have rights doesn't change the fact that in reality, I don't. That situation with Brian Valenzuela, that situation, my public pretender could have gotten that dropped in one court date just by fucking showing up and doing her job. But she didn't. You have a certain amount of days after you've been arrested to have a pretrial hearing. After that, they have to drop the charges. However, they did not hold my pretrial hearing within that period of time. So those charges legally should not have been continued to be held over my head. I should not have been continued to be assaulted and abused in that jail after that point in time. Those two officers who were charged with manslaughter in Boulder for killing a man after they assaulted me and I spoke out, those officers should not have had the opportunity to kill that man. They never should have been allowed. Now, I get to hear how there's a lot of black people going, oh, well, you know, you don't care about black people. You don't care about black people. Look at this rich white kid and how he got treated. And then these white folks are like, hey, hold on a second. I got a whole list of poor white people who are going through the same fucking shit. But you don't want to look at that because it destroys your narrative of this is only happening to black people. I'm not fighting for black rights. I'm fighting for human rights. But black people are human. I'm not fighting for women's rights. I'm fighting for human rights. But women are human. I'm not fighting for LGBT rights. I'm fighting human rights. But LGBT are human. And yes, I do take the time individually for each one of those groups to point out the fucked up shit that is happening that is allowed to happen. Like the rape of Teresa Massilia and the fact that they didn't charge her rapist with rape. They didn't charge him with anything. They charged her with assault for fighting off her rapist. Then there's the case of Christine Kelly, also in Boulder County. Imagine this very same place that fucked up the JonBenét case. So what's the difference between Christine Kelly and Teresa Massilia? Well, Teresa Massilia fought off her attacker and was charged with assault. Christine Kelly did not fight off her attacker. Why would she after a situation in Boulder County like what happened to Teresa Massilia? Why would she? And then they charged her with making a false report because she didn't fight hard enough. Rape is legal in the United States. It's illegal on paper, but that is it. It's only illegal on paper. In reality, police are helping rapists get away with it. This very same police department that you have already heard almost a dozen people speak out about their human trafficking. But you don't want to do a goddamn thing. If these aren't black kids being human trafficked, then it must be fine because nobody would dare do this to white people. Are you out of your goddamn mind? And then you want to make it a racist thing. Like seriously, Officer Waylon Lolotai assaults 7 people in 2018. 4 of them are white. 3 of them are not. Officer Waylon Lolotai is literally darker than every single person that he assaulted. Every single one. And then you say, black people can't be racist. Only white people can be racist. But then in this narrative, of course, yeah, these officers did this because they're racist. Ray type, hi Sean, I hope you well. Love you from Indonesia, brother. Absolutely, I'm doing my best. I'm not well. I don't have the help I need. When I get my money comes first, I got to try to find somebody who I can pay $10 an hour. Now, before Natalie died, I was still trying to get somebody to do that too. I was offering $20 an hour at the time. Then Natalie was killed. And I had a lot of people who wanted to harass me. Sorry, I'm killing flies. Those are my flies from today. Oh, I dropped a couple. Obviously, I'm not a big fly fan. Oh, there's another one. Nice. Sometimes when I smack them, instead of them dying, they walk around for a minute. Or after I kill them, they end up on the floor, and then, well, that sucks for me because I want to show them off. I want to show off how good I am at killing flies without a fly swatter. But the fact is, because nobody else is doing anything about it, I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And I know a lot of y'all are supporting me from elsewhere, morally supporting or whatever. But the fact is, I don't need moral support. I need actual help. I need someone in person to take the time to go through this. Because no matter what, they're just going to call me mentally ill, refuse to take a look at it, and harm me for trying to turn in their officers. Scott DaCosta belongs in prison. Now, I know a lot of y'all can understand my point of view with martyrdom. According to most of the people who have spoken about these situations with me, like Candace Bondurant, they say that they would kill somebody who did those things. Well, she wasn't anticipating the people doing those things being cops, was she? And when it came between standing up for what's right or folding like a fucking accordion, she showed her true colors, just like Natalie and Alicia Bollinger, Maddie Boa. Candace Bondurant is definitely a coward. I also recorded the conversation with her mother because after the immoral things that Candace did to increase the violence toward me, because she was afraid of an officer who shouldn't have had anything to do with it. Because, see, mind you, Paxton, Colorado is not in the same jurisdiction as Boulder. It's not in the same jurisdiction as Clearview and Larimer County. It's not in the same jurisdiction as Adams County. It's not in the same jurisdiction as Denver County. It's not in the same jurisdiction as Arapahoe County. And that officer, well, harassed Candace for helping me. This is not the first time that they did this. This is the first time that Paxton police took part in it. But mind you, police had been refusing to take a report from me for years. They didn't just magically start because Natalie was killed. No, the homeless have no rights. If you, as a black person, want to complain that you're getting it worse than everyone else, you better fucking be a homeless person or you can kiss my ass. Then I get to read from all these white people about how all these black people deserve it. Look at what all these black people are doing to our statues. I saw white people pulling down statues. White people. Did you bother with bitching at those guys? You're fine with pretending that all black people are taking part in this. Meanwhile, you refuse to believe for a moment that all police officers are taking part in this. All police officers are taking part in this. They learn these techniques when they want to become an officer. Now, a good person would go through that, realize how fucked up it is, and go, yeah, I don't actually want to be a police officer. Matter of fact, as an American, I feel that it is not only my right, but my duty to speak out about these bastards. But no, that's not what happens. That's why there's no such thing as a good police officer. If I was to kill Jared Hahn today, I can guarantee you that never again would he ever do the things that he's done to me. But also, that would make him a martyr. And police would go, oh, well, see, this mentally ill guy went off and fucking killed people. We need to damage mentally ill people more. We need to harm the mentally ill people more to stop them from doing it. Fuck you, bitch. All police officers are mentally ill. You cannot be a police officer unless you are severely mentally ill. And I do mean that. It takes a severely mentally ill person to watch another police officer choke an unarmed man to death. It takes a severely mentally ill person to jump across jurisdictions illegally to destroy evidence of the wrongdoing of other officers. When it comes to a civil war, a lot of people are like, this is a race war. You know, it's going to be blacks against whites. Oh, no. It needs to be the American people against the American government. Because it is not the American government. It is what? The Nazi government. Our government kills more people, more civilians than the Nazis did. I want you to think about that. How many people do you know who have been killed by bad laws? How many people do you know that are dead of bad health care? Meanwhile, you look at all of these places where I have to go deal with these people, like Region 1. Obviously, yes, she is working together with the police. Obviously, she doesn't give a shit about me. Obviously, the people in her office are not interested in doing their goddamn jobs. Is her job to ignore the abuse against me? Is it her job to ignore me for months on end? You notice that she didn't bother calling me back, and I have many recorded phone calls where I did call her. She never called me back. Police officers didn't just use these tactics in Colorado and Nebraska. They are taught this nationwide. The way that they abuse their power with the hospitals is nationwide. If you're suicidal, chances are pretty good you don't need meds. Chances are pretty good that you're in an unsafe situation and you need help. And you're desperate because you're not getting that help. Did Natalie Bollinger get that help? Shit, Natalie Bollinger had more help than anyone I've known in my lifetime. Meanwhile, she was the fucking predator. And her sister is the fucking predator. And who are their predators? Their family. People like Ted Bollinger, who got away with it. People like Rose M. Kelly, who got away with it. People like Danica Gardner, who got away with it. People like Rochelle Shelley Campbell, who got away with it. People like Denise M. Kelly, who got away with it. People like Jennifer Freeman Bollinger, who got away with it. People like Troy Bollinger, who got away with it. Yeah, I can see all this wrong shit going on. Ray typed, hey man, I'm at my all-time low as well with these quarantine shit, so I can sympathize. That's the thing, is that a lot of y'all, now that we got this quarantine thing going on, you can almost sympathize with the homeless, and that's a good thing, believe it or not. The things that the homeless complain about, you guys complain about too, now that you're under quarantine. And no, I'm not trying to target you in specific, Ray. But now people are stuck in their houses. They're complaining about the very same things that the homeless been complaining about for years, while you ignore them and tell them they wanted, needed it, chose it, and deserved it. But you don't deserve it because you're in a house. You are more of a human being than we are because you're in a house. You are more deserving because you're in a house. And you got it in your head that you worked harder because you're in a house. Well, that's fine. You go ahead and have all of the beliefs you want, but when your beliefs start harming other people, I'm gonna fucking step in. I'm gonna speak out. And if I gotta take an ass whooping, so be it, I'll take it. Now, there's something that I do agree with wholeheartedly. There were 6 officers who, well, they were taking part in beating a black man down in the street, and that's in the video, but that's not the part that people focus on. They don't focus on the person that the police are fucking with in the street. They focus on the 2 black men who were in a vehicle who were harassed by those police. And yes, what those police officers did was wrong. One of those officers was white, and the other 5, were black, and they were all let go. All of them. Do I agree with that? Fuck yes. Fuck yes. I don't care what color you are. If you're a rotten cop, you don't deserve the badge, and you certainly don't deserve a gun. I personally think that legislation should be brought forward to prevent any officer who has let go of his position from ever owning a firearm again. If you can prevent an innocent man from exercising his Second Amendment right by repeatedly breaking the law and doing everything in your power to prevent that victim from being allowed to go to court, yeah, those very same rules should apply to you. If you commit manslaughter as a police officer, yes, you should still have the death penalty. You have a position of power that is too easy for you to abuse, and there need to be incentives for you not to abuse your position. I'm pretty sure that Officer Steinman and Officer Lolatai, hanging side by side from the courthouse on the Pearl Street Mall, would send a very clear message. Now, why am I after putting these officers in prison instead of hanging them or shooting them? Because it sends a much better message. It sends the message that we, the people, are not going to tolerate this. These people are going to be punished for their crimes, and they're going to be punished according to the law. We got a new officer in town. I haven't met him or talked to him yet. I just know that he moved into one of my old teachers' houses. And I know that they're from Colorado. And I got to tell you, when I saw those license plates and the Dual County police cruiser outside of their house, I got to admit, I started fantasizing about it being Officer Steinman or Officer Lolatai. Are they going to hire Officer Lolatai in this town? Fuck no, he's the wrong damn color. Nobody in this town is going to respect a black police officer. We have a black priest at the Catholic Church. Nobody respects him either. We had a black preacher at the Methodist Church a few years back. What did I get to hear about that? I got to hear about how he's from Africa and he bought some goats so that his kids could cut the throats of goats, because if you can cut the throat of a goat, you can kill a person. Really? This is the small town that I live in. The very same small town that, well, I'm going to post this up in the little link here so that you guys can see it. KKK. Oh, Nebraska. All right, we've got some on the dozens of groups that are formed here. 10 cities in Nebraska with the most KKK. Great Plains Politics, annual report to Congress. God damn, there's a lot of that. But here's the one that I want to show y'all. This is from, I believe, the Omaha World Herald. We'll find out. By the way, Omaha is the capital of Nebraska. Yep, it's the Omaha World Herald. From an attic in chapel, Ku Klux Klan robes, bits of Nebraska history, and a mystery. And then it's got a picture of who? Nothing other than Joel Jay, the county prosecutor at the time. You copy and paste. Luckily, there's only 171 characters in that. If it goes over 200 characters, it's not going to post it. So I got lucky in the fact that I got to post that. A lot of people are having a lot of the same issues that I had. You're stuck quarantined, right? Stuck in your houses, not allowed to go anywhere. That was pretty much my life for an entire year before Natalie was killed. I couldn't go see my friends without being threatened, harassed, or assaulted. I basically lived in my shitty ass apartment up there at low income. Didn't really talk to anybody. The only people who really talked to me were alcoholics, like my next door neighbor Susie, who killed a guy named Bob Mick. Stabbed him to death year before last. Although Ash D type, by the way, anyone who tries to view that from the EU gets blocked. EU stands for European Union. For those of you ignorant Americans who don't give a holy goddamn about anything but yourselves. 451, unavailable due to legal reasons. Damn. That's what Ash D typed. 451, unavailable due to legal reasons. I'm going to click on that and see if it brings me anywhere. It takes me directly to the site. See, that's one of the reasons that here in the United States that censorship is supposed to be illegal. Supposed to be. Governments around the world have always been assholes. I mean, we could look all the way back to the Stone Age and see examples of this. We can go to Africa and see examples of this. In Europe, see examples of this. In Asia, to see examples of this. North America and South America, to see examples of this. Until recently, really, the only continent that really didn't have those issues was Australia. They didn't have those issues until a whole bunch of white people started showing up. Here in the United States, I mean, shit, yeah, we had all sorts of wars going on here well before there were ever white people here. When I was a kid, they used to tell us this wives' tale about how none of the Native Americans ever went to war. They didn't even know what war was and didn't even have a word for war until white people showed up. Holy shit, that's a fucking crock of horse shit. Maybe y'all might want to look into the history of the Aztecs and the Incas, the Mayans. Look at the fact that when the Spanish landed, well, they were greeted by people who were very finely dressed, but also had weapons. Not weapons for killing animals, weapons for killing each other. We the people means we. It means all of us. A police officer is not a person. Do you know? Because that's a position. Just like a doctor is not a person. Now, there are human beings who are doctors. There are human beings who are lawyers. There are human beings who are police officers. But police lives don't matter because police are not a life. It's an occupation. No matter what your occupation, your life should matter. But here in the United States, the most victimized people in America, in this order in specific, well, as far as victimized by the government anyway, you've got foster children. And then you've got, when they turn 18, former foster children. Then you've got the homeless. That's the top three right there. The rest of y'all can divvy out the bullshit. But the fact is, these black people in America are being victimized for a reason. It's easy to get away with it because of public opinion. People who are called mentally ill are railroaded and murdered by police every single day. Every single day. Every single day, there are homeless people who are murdered by police of every color, every religion, every nationality, both men and women. But you guys want to focus only on black people in houses, and that's a crock of shit. If Zaid Atkinson had not lived in a house, he would have been beaten down by those officers. For being black? No. For being homeless. The way that Zaid Atkinson was treated, that's how homeless people are treated in the United States every day, everywhere. Now then, we've got these situations where you can see body cam, or you can see the difference between cameras of people recording us. Fucking get off of me. Sorry, I had a fly buzzing next to my ear. And it was that easy for me to forget what it was that I was talking about. So I think I'm going to end this video. Y'all be safe. And fuck all the world's governments. We the people need to stop listening to these rich assholes because they don't have a goddamn clue. And fuck the police.